Welcome to Horror Boys. It's a podcast on the internet. I'm Austin, joined as always by
Chris.
And together we are the Horror Boys. And what is Horror Boys, you may be asking? Well, it's a podcast where every episode we review a horror movie.
Well,
Actually, today Chris is gonna play a game I put together.
Yeah.
Because I haven't had the mental health to be able to do notes. The podcast will come back to what it was eventually, but for now, it's gonna probably be a couple weeks of games while I keep trying to get my mental health in a good place. Woo! Go talk to someone, everyone. That's my little mental health awareness message of the day. Talk to someone.
Yeah.
Alright, so what are we doing today? Chris doesn't know. I haven't even told him yet. But you might kind of know
no idea.
The viewer, because we're playing, well, we're not playing. I'm hosting and Chris is playing. The Top 10 game is the name I have for it. Basically, it's just I have 3 top 10 lists that I curated that you will try to guess all of the items on that list, and I'll give you hints to go through, kind of a thing, if you need help. So, like, the first...
Test my knowledge.
Yeah, this first example is the top 10 highest grossing horror movies.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
And I'll give you, if you need help, I will give hints, and we have 3 of these lists to get through today. So, yeah. What's your first guess?
Weird.
What's your first guess on one of the top 10 highest grossing horror movies?
Top 10
This is not adjusted for inflation, by the way.
movies.
This is just highest grossing.
Highest grossing ever.
Mm-hmm.
So not adjusted for inflation.
No.
It's going to be somewhat recently. Probably.
Could be.
Give me Insidious for one of the top 10.
No.
No.
That's your first X.
Ooh.
There's no limit on X's, but that's your first X.
Cool. I think we should make like a tally or something.
Yeah, not on the screen.
It probably won't happen in post, but...
Oh, I definitely won't edit that in, so it's not happening. Yeah. But just know, that's the first X.
Yeah. Shoot.
I will give you my first hint.
Exorcist?
That is number 6. I did not write down what they grossed. I'm sorry.
Okay.
But that is
Fair
number
enough.
6 of all time.
Number 6.
And I will also let you know,
all time.
My first hint of the day, we have not covered any of these movies.
Paranormal Activity.
No.
Fair.
That's your second X.
Not covered any of them.
We've not covered none of these movies have been covered on the podcast.
Saw?
No. Let me give you a
Dang,
hint.
this is gonna be rough.
Yeah, here's your first hint for number 10.
Okay.
I believe it's a prequel to a much more famous movie.
A prequel to a much more famous movie.
Yeah.
Also, horror.
Yeah. Well, some would argue the original movie isn't, but I think they're wrong.
So it's one of the Alien movies.
No, it's not an Alien movie.
No.
But there may be, because you unlocked. There is a movie in the Alien franchise on this list. But that's not the one I was trying to help you with.
Fair.
Because I would argue Alien is a horror movie, and if you there's not even an argument for it not being.
There definitely shouldn't be.
Yeah.
It's a sci-fi movie because it took place in space.
I mean, if you said Aliens is a horror movie, I still think you're kind of wrong, but I could see it. The first Alien is a slasher movie in space.
Yeah. It's a creature slasher movie in space.
Sure, but what's a very famous movie that super well regarded movie that some people argue isn't horror but is definitely horror?
I got nothing.
It's a lot of people call it a thriller, even
hardest
though it's
part.
definitely a horror movie.
Thriller? That's a horror movie.
All right, we'll move on to a different one.
Okay.
We'll come back to number 10. I feel like you're having a little trouble there. But
Yeah. Just a lot.
and that's the joy of this, is watching Chris be bad at this.
Yeah, I will be bad at probably most of this, to be honest.
Oh, let's go with there's an Alien franchise on here. What movie do you think is highest grossing in the Alien franchise?
Aliens.
No.
Thank goodness. All right.
Whoa, Aliens is a great movie. How dare you?
No, that's good. Well, I'll say it. The first one, Alien.
No.
Darn it. Yeah,
No,
makes
Chris,
sense.
I don't know. I think every movie left on the... There is one movie from the 90s. Every other movie on this list is 2000s on.
Yeah. Prometheus?
Yes, it is Prometheus at number 8.
Oh, that hurts.
Yeah, no,
I don't like that.
I'm also not happy with that, but you did get Prometheus at number 8. You have 6 and 8, which means you still have 1 through 5, 7, 9, and 10 to go.
Jeez Louise.
This is fun. It's fun to
Annabelle.
No, but there is a Conjuring universe movie on the list.
Is it the first Conjuring?
No.
Really?
No, it's not on here.
Oh, I guess that's fair. Annabelle Creation.
No.
There's
There's only so many.
The Curse of La Llorona. Oh wait, no, that's not in the Conjuring universe.
I think it is, but still in
Officially, it's not in the Conjuring.
Bull crap! It's part of the universe, but it's not the one on the list.
Yeah, it is. The Nun.
It's The Nun at number 9.
Oh no!
The Nun at
Why
number
are they
9.
all terrible? That's
Go
not
see
true.
The Nun 2 in theaters right now.
Don't see The Nun 2 because the first Nun wasn't worth seeing in theaters either. I'm mad that I gave it money. I hate that movie so much. It's so boring.
Well, it's number 9 highest grossing movie of all time. Thanks, in part, to viewers like you.
Wish you wouldn't. Okay, so it's Prometheus.
Mm-hmm.
I already forgot what number 6 was. The Nun.
Exorcist.
Oh, The Exorcist, of course. Nightmare on Elm Street?
No. That's from
Yeah,
the
makes sense.
80s,
That's
and
an
there's
older
nothing
movie.
from the 80s on this list.
Whoa, The Exorcist is an older
From the
movie.
70s. There is nothing from the 80s on this list.
Nothing? That's crazy.
There is one movie from the 90s left, and everything else is 2000s on.
Scream definitely isn't on there.
No, sadly, Scream is not on this list, and it breaks my heart because
So
it should have been.
It deserves to be, but it's
None.
not.
There is no movies in the Scream franchise on this list. Not any of the recent ones either.
What movies did I really hate that did really well?
I will say, I know for a fact
myself the important
there are
questions.
2 movies on this list that you like for sure. Left on this list, 2 movies
Okay.
that I know for a fact you like. Number 1 and
Okay.
3.
Oh wow, Hereditary.
No, not.
No,
That's a great movie, but no, it did not make the cut.
no, that makes a lot of sense.
Let's go back to number 10. What's a really famous thriller? Like considered one of the best thriller movies of all time, Chris. It won an Oscar.
That doesn't do it. I don't pay attention to the Oscars, Austin.
It has a serial killer in it.
The Zodiac.
Huh?
Zodiac.
No, not the Zodiac.
It has a serial killer in it.
It's about a cop
and
trying to
it's not
stop a
Halloween.
serial killer.
And stop the serial killer. And it's okay, yeah. Silence of the Lambs.
Which is not on here, but,
But
it's sequel.
is not
sequel
it's
and or
the-
prequel. I'm not sure which one this is.
oh god. What is it?
You're overthinking it.
Hannibal.
It's just Hannibal. Number 10 is Hannibal.
Yeah.
Not the Red Dragon or whatever any of those other ones are called. No, it's
That's what I was thinking. I was like, oh god, it's not the girl with the dragon tattoo. That's the
No, it's not at all. All right, hey, look, we're almost. You've already almost got half of them. The first three of the three lists.
I don't like it.
I do. I think this is really fun, and I think we will definitely do a top 10 game at some other point because I can come up with other lists.
Okay.
I will let you know there is only one sequel on this list.
One sequel. Wow.
And the sequel sucks.
Like the direct sequel?
It's a direct sequel and it sucks.
Is Jaws on the list?
No, Jaws is not on the list. There's only one movie from the 70s, Chris.
And that's The Exorcist.
All that's left is 2000s and one late 90s movie. Might have even been 2000 if I'm honest. I could be wrong, but I think it's 99.
The Ring?
No.
Is that on the list? No,
it's not on the list. Okay. You would think it would have had a good chance because it was PG-13, which means it would have had a higher...
broader audience.
But no. I believe four of the 6 movies left are PG-13. But two are rated R. 2 of the last ones are rated R. Number 1 is a rated R movie. And you like it.
Whoa. Don't tell that to my parents.
But it's also, a really popular movie from post-2000s.
Popular movie from post-2000s. Final Destination.
No. Final Destination's not on this list. Come on. Come on, Chris. Also, nothing we've covered made the list.
Oh.
I told you that at the beginning, like, multiple times. We have not covered anything on this highest grossing movie list.
Right.
Some of them weren't even movies I would have ever considered covering. Not because they're like so bad, but like just because I never even would have. They didn't cross my mind. 2 of these movies did not cross my mind at all.
Interesting.
One of them stars, I believe it's Brad Pitt. I think it's Brad Pitt.
Brad Pitt in a horror movie?
I will give it that horror. It might be. You might say it's not a horror movie, but I would, due to the thematic, what it is about.
World War Z.
Yes.
That is, yeah.
It's a zombie movie, so it's a horror movie. Like, I agree with the list that
I also just don't think zombie movies
guess what?
horror movies.
That would never have... We were never going to cover World War Z. I never even thought of covering World War Z.
Makes sense, which makes me think that there's probably another one of those types of movies on this list.
There are no more zombie movies on this list.
Really? Zombieland didn't make that.
And Zombieland is something I would consider covering. I consider zombie movies horror movies, and just World War Z.
Zombieland is awesome.
World War Z is just one I never thought of covering because it's World War Z.
That's fair. Well, it's a decent movie.
Well,
just nothing.
Maybe we'll do a top 10 highest grossing movies arc.
Wait, huh? Oh, just for like generally speaking?
Yeah, we'll do a top 10 highest. We'll just cover these 10 movies. No.
Oh, okay.
We're not covering The Nun. Or Prometheus. Or Hannibal.
God, yeah. Can we please not?
Let's go to number 7. This is a movie about aliens. But it is not part of the Alien franchise.
Aliens, that's the Alien franchise, but it is a horror movie still.
Sure.
Interesting.
This is another one that I would consider loosely horror.
Man. Loosely horror. Signs.
It is Signs. Yes, Signs is number 7.
It's got moments of the movie
if I thought top 10 highest grossing horror movies, Signs would have never one I would have considered.
That's fair. I probably wouldn't have either.
Number 5 because it is a sequel.
I almost guessed War of the Worlds.
That would have been fair. with the hints I gave you, that is a completely fair guess. Number 5 is a sequel to one of the other numbers on this list. One that you have not guessed yet. There is a direct sequel
to another movie on the list.
Either number 1, 2, or 3. 5 is a sequel to it.
Interesting. And it did well enough. Oh, it means there's a lot of hype for the fact that it had a sequel.
Mm-hmm. This sequel was hyped.
Must have been
I would
amazing.
argue. I believe the sequel sucks, but it was hyped.
Interesting. Trying to think of horror movies that had sequels that I didn't really care for.
You might have liked this sequel. I don't actually know your opinion on the sequel. I just know I don't like it. I know that you like the original of the two. We haven't covered any of these movies. And so you have 1, 2, 3, and 5 left.
Evil Dead.
No.
The new one.
No. Evil Dead Rise did not make the
list.
Did not make Evil Dead 2014? Something like that.
I will say I did like that one.
Yeah, neither of those are on this list.
The 2014 one.
You didn't like Evil Dead Rise? I've heard mixed reviews on it.
Yeah, well, no. I liked the original Evil Dead, or not the original, the 2014 Evil Dead.
Okay.
And Rise was alright.
Okay.
Very okay.
Neither are on this list, so it's okay. The 99 movie is still on the list. The two movies that I know you like are still on the list. And the sequel is on the list. That is, all 4 movies fall under one of those categories.
The Strangers.
No.
Yeah, that was a long shot.
But The Strangers pray it. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, that movie sucked pretty bad.
But can you imagine if it made the list? It didn't. But could you imagine?
I would be mad. Be very angry. Shoot. Sequel.
Here's a hint for number 2. Number 2 is a movie directed by one of the directors we have already covered on this specific list. So we have World War Z. I don't know who directed that. We have The Exorcist. I don't know who directed that. We have Signs. I kind of know who directed that. We have Prometheus. I don't know who directed that. The Nun. Who cares? Hannibal. Who cares? So what's the one director that people would actually recognize from the list we've covered so far?
M. Night Shyamalan.
That's right. There's an M. Night Shyamalan movie on this list still.
Again.
He made 2. He's the only person to have 2. Well, no. I believe the movie with a sequel might have been directed by the same director as the one before it, but not this. Don't worry about those right now. You're trying to remember the M. Night Shyamalan number 2 movie, number 2 highest grossing horror movie of all time.
Oh wait, I just said it. What did I guess? Village.
No,
or The Village.
It's not the Village, the number 2 highest grossing horror movie of all time.
Yeah, I don't know.
What world would we live in? This movie completely deserves...
Oh, yeah, Sixth Sense.
Yes! This movie deserves its spot at number 2. I believe it's from 1999. That is the one movie from the 90s.
That makes sense.
You have left with number 1 and number 3, which you like both of them. And number 5 is a sequel to one of those 2 numbers.
Horror movies that I like.
We saw number 1 in theaters together.
Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey.
No, it's not. Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey is not the highest grossing horror movie of all time, Chris. It barely.
But imagine the world where it was.
No, I don't want to imagine. I liked that movie for what it was, but I do not want to imagine a world where that was even close to the list.
Fair. We saw it together.
Mm-hmm. And you like it. Because
X.
No, it's on X. That
Oh.
would be cool if it was on this, but that is very niche and very
Specific
very
rating of audience.
Yeah, you got to have the right audience for that. No, this is a movie that tons of people have seen, hence why it's the highest grossing movie of all time. But yeah, no,
Right.
it's not highest grossing movie, highest grossing horror movie of all time. We saw it in theaters together before I was a fan of horror movies.
Before?
Yeah.
Whoa.
This is
I can't even remember that time.
pre-Horror Boys.
Horror Bois.
We saw it together after eating dinner with our friend, who I can say his first name. We have a friend named Craig. We went to Raising Cane's with Craig, and then afterwards we went and watched this movie at the theater right next to Raising Cane's.
Not a single clue as
It's
to
a
what that is.
remake.
A remake.
Or you could argue a readaptation.
The
It's a
Thing?
What'd you say?
The Thing?
No, not the thing. It's
I
a
genuinely
readaptation.
don't remember.
You're gonna
A
kick yourself when you
readaptation.
figure this out.
Probably.
A
Sounds about
readaptation, which means it has to be something that's being adapted the first time, and then this is the second time it's been adapted.
Right.
Very famous author may have wrote the thing this is about.
So it's a Stephen King movie,
Yes, it's a Stephen King movie.
and it's not The Thing.
He's not involved with the thing, so yes.
Is he not?
Nope, the thing is a remake of a 50s movie.
Of a movie. Yeah.
And that's John Carpenter did the thing. Stephen King not involved at all.
I do know that John Carpenter directed.
I don't know what you know, Chris, because you can't remember
That's
this
fair.
very famous Stephen King adaptation from the post 2000s that we saw in theaters together.
No, I can't. There's Pet Sematary. I didn't like that.
Okay.
Uh,
Name other Stephen King books, Chris. I don't know, probably his most famous one. Well, there's probably two that you could argue his most famous one. This is not one of them, obviously, because it's
the
only
most famous one, Carrie.
Huh?
Carrie.
You know, that is a fair assessment for the most famous, but it is not Carrie, because we did not see Carrie in theaters together.
I don't remember what we saw together 10 years ago.
This was a little less than 10 years ago. This was from 2017.
It's not that much less than 10 years.
It's a little bit
That's
less.
7 years.
It makes me feel better that it's a little less.
Oh, geez, 7 years ago.
It has a stacked cast, including a little boy named Finn.
Finn Wolfhard.
It's got Skarsgård
Oh, yeah, okay,
in it. Yeah. So what is
That's
the number
fair.
one movie?
Yeah. It's It.
Yeah, it's It.
Well, yeah, I'm okay with it.
Yeah, it's a great movie. Now, what's
Yeah.
number 5, Chris?
It 2.
That is right, It Chapter 2, which I thought kind of sucked.
Chapter 2. I liked it. It was alright.
It was, I just didn't like it. It wasn't as good as the first one.
Wasn't bad. Yeah, well, that's fair.
Now we have the last one on the list for you, number 3. It's another movie I'm 99% sure you like it. We've never talked about it on the podcast. We've obviously, but never even mentioned it on the podcast, from my knowledge.
Wow.
It stars a actor from Wild Wild West.
So it's a Will Smith horror movie?
Yeah. There's really only one.
Oh. Yeah, I Am Legend.
Yes. You have completed your first top 10 list, Chris.
Wow, that was brutal.
I think this is
How long did that take?
about 25 minutes,
Okay,
which really isn't that
good
bad.
golly.
If you average out that's a little over an hour podcast, so that's fine with me.
Yeah, it's fine with me
yeah.
too. Just I feel terrible about it.
Oh, and that's I think gonna be like 50% of the enjoyment of this podcast is listening to you suffer.
Yeah. What's the next top 10?
Well, our top 10 highest rated movies according to IMDb, horror movies, obviously.
Oh, interesting.
Top 10 highest rated horror movies, and I will let you know, we have not covered any of these.
Not covered a single one.
No, the highest rated horror movie we covered was Halloween at a 7.7. The lowest on this list is a 7.9.
Wow, Hereditary didn't even get above 7.7?
No, that's
crazy.
like a 7.4, I think.
Dang. I guess that's kind of a divisive film.
Where is Hereditary? Oh, it's under... that's 7.3 is what Hereditary got. 7.7 was Halloween. 7.4 was for Elm Street, The Lighthouse, Scream, and Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the original. But none of those are on the list. None of those make the top 10.
I'd be surprised if The Exorcist didn't make it into this one as well.
Are you officially guessing The Exorcist?
I am.
Well, that is, I think, like number 7 with an 8.1.
Nice. That felt pretty good about that. I was like, "There's no way they did."
Oh, The Exorcist,
top
yes,
grossing
The
and top
Exorcist
rate.
had to make this list.
Poltergeist.
No.
There. Top 10.
I am also updating the list because I realized there was a movie that I would consider a horror movie that I did not put on this list. Sorry.
Interesting.
Because this
like
list
an
I had to
honorable
kind
mention.
of... Huh?
Oh, no, it's just bumping into it.
Yeah, it definitely is a very high-rated movie that just did not... Some people wouldn't consider it horror, so it didn't make the list initially. But it is a horror movie, in my opinion, wholeheartedly.
Interesting.
There are 2 movies on this list that some people would argue are not horror movies, but I would argue they are wrong. We may have talked about one of them on today's podcast.
Silence of the Lambs?
Number 1 at an 8.6.
All right, let's go Silence of the Lambs.
Highest rated horror movie according to IMDb fan scores.
Okay, it's fan scores.
It's the only
Gotcha.
scores that are on IMDb. It's the IMDb score, which I think is it's mostly fans. I think I don't know. It's the IMDb score, which I think is fan scores.
Okay.
And I will say there are technically movies out there that like have 10s and stuff with like no reviews. So
right.
This is me. I had to try to calculate if there's a movie that missed this list. It could have been just because it wasn't on one of the 2 lists I put together to make this list. But I'm pretty sure these are the top 10 highest rated horror movies, in my opinion, due to what I saw online. So there's one more movie that some people would consider not a horror movie, but I would argue it is definitely falls under horror due to
elements.
Very severe elements that if there's a movie that this, for example, this isn't going to really help you, but just to explain why it's on this list, there is a movie that is considered a direct ripoff of this that no one would argue is horror, but for some reason this movie gets arguments that it's not horror.
Five Nights at Freddy's?
No. Can you imagine if Five Nights at Freddy's was one of the top 10? It was rated higher than Halloween? or Scream,
I don't know.
or Nightmare on Elm Street, or Hereditary.
Hey, fans are crazy, all right?
But you gotta remember, anyone can be on those, not just the fans.
A direct ripoff, and it wasn't a horror.
Yeah, people would 100% consider the direct ripoff horror. Five Nights at Freddy's, by the way,
they would consider the ripoff.
They consider the ripoff horror, but some people argue that this isn't. Five Nights at Freddy's is a 5.5.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it's a okay movie, but that's not on the top 10 horror movies of all time list. Nothing we've ever covered is on this list. Also, another reminder of that fact. So, because
apparently would have forgotten.
Because apparently we only cover bad movies.
No, we just covered like good movies, but not great.
Not great movies, apparently.
I
will let you know there is one more movie on this list that was on the other list.
On this one that was on the other, and
I will remind you the other list real quick.
And it did a lot of money.
Yes. The other list had It, The Sixth Sense, I Am Legend, World War Z, It Chapter 2, The Exorcist, Signs, Prometheus, The Nun, and Hannibal.
Give me It.
No.
Surprising.
It 2017 had a 7.3.
Ooh,
solid movie.
Same as
with Hereditary, but not quite in that greatness caliber, apparently.
I didn't hear anything else on there that would have fit the bill.
Really?
To be honest with you.
I don't know. Maybe one of the top 5.
Was it It?
Mm-hmm.
It Chapter 2 was
Number 5.
Also somehow in the top 5.
Yes. World War Z, I Am Legend, and The Sixth Sense.
Oh yeah, Sixth Sense.
Yeah, The Sixth Sense is an 8.2.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Which, that is an amazing movie. It is the only great M. Night Shyamalan movie.
Yeah. It is barely horror for me, I gotta say.
I mean, it's a movie about ghosts that are pretty graphic at times, the ghosts. I think it falls under horror. I will let you know, we had at one point back when we had a list of movies we were going to cover, there was an M. Night Shyamalan arc that included that.
I mean, that's fair. I would have not minded watching The Sixth Sense.
But that was forever ago, and who knows what we're going to cover. I don't know what we're going to cover anymore.
Hey, maybe we will have a M. Night Shyamalan arc just sooner than later.
Maybe, who knows? But yeah, you have
2 of the 8.
3. You have 3.
10.
You have number 1, number 5, and number 7.
Oh yeah.
Let's go down to number 10. Number 10 will surprise you. It's like, oh, it's
probably.
I've heard good things about this movie, but I am shocked it has this high of a score.
Oh.
Like, genuinely shocked. It is a horror comedy.
A horror comedy, and we haven't covered it.
We have not covered it.
Have we seen it?
I have not seen it, but I would assume you have.
Oh, okay.
It is a pretty well-known horror comedy. I would assume you have seen it at least once in your life.
Scream? Or not Scream. Scary Movie?
Oh, I've seen Scary Movie, and it's not on this list.
I mean, that makes sense.
I would call Scary Movie more of a comedy horror. This definitely has more horror elements. This is not a spoof movie.
Okay.
This is a movie that has horror elements and comedy elements. It is a horror comedy. It is both horror and comedy.
We haven't covered it.
No.
You haven't seen it.
No, I have not. It has been mentioned in a movie we covered. Technically, this movie was shown on a television in a movie we watched. This movie is in Scream 4.
Horror movies love to do that all the time.
Yeah, but this is like they talk about it.
It was in Scream 4.
And they talk about it in dialogue. On one of the calls with Ghostface.
Scriform.
Ghostface knows that they're watching this movie in Scriform.
Oof.
If you remembered Scriform like I do, this would be a really big hint for you.
It would. I know.
What's another hint
I
could
know
give?
that they like to watch Halloween in Scream movies, and that's
That's
about
really
it.
only Scream 1, but it's
Yeah.
not Halloween because it's a horror comedy that we've never covered. And there's another hint I could give you, but I feel like it would just give it away.
Give it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If I here's
Ooh.
what I'll tell you. If I told you the subgenre of horror this is, it would tell you what movie it is. Like if I said it's a blank movie, you would know exactly what horror comedy I'm talking about, because it is the most iconic horror comedy under the blank movie horror category.
Gotcha.
Like, if I said it's a killer car movie, you'd know I'm talking about Christine. This
Right.
is, if I told you the type of movie it is, it would give it away. Because it is the most iconic of those, for sure.
And it's a horror movie.
And it's a
And
comedy.
it's a comedy.
Uh-huh.
And it's got the most iconic of this thing, and we
Yeah.
haven't covered it, which
No, we
means
have
it's
not.
not any of the Chucky movies.
I would describe all of those as horror with comedy elements, not horror comedies directly. I don't feel, except for Seed of Chucky, I don't think any of the other ones were trying to be comedies. This is trying to be a comedy. And succeeding, from my understanding.
Okay. God, what is it called? Cabin in the Woods?
No. That's a good guess. That's a very good guess, but no.
Okay, yeah. Dang.
It's not made in America. And its name is a pun.
We Live in the Shadows?
No. It's what we do in the shadows anyway, but still no.
What we do in the shadows? Yeah.
Its name is a pun of a much more
Name is a
famous
pun.
movie in the same blank movie category.
Sharknado.
This movie did not surprise me to the level Sharknado being on this list would have.
That's fair.
It's a zombie movie.
It's a zombie movie. Oh, that was the last list.
It's a zombie horror comedy with a name that's a
Zombieland.
pun. No, its name is a pun based off of a different zombie movie. Starring Simon Pegg.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not giving it to you till you say it.
Shaun of the Dead.
Thank you.
Shaun of the Dead.
7.9, Shaun of the Dead, number 10. Surprised me that it made the list. Like, not nothing
Genuinely
against
good
it.
movie.
But 7.9 felt a little high to me. With
don't know
knowing
if
what
yeah.
with knowing what these other great movies get. When Scream gets a 7.4 and Halloween gets a 7.7 and Hereditary gets a 7.3, the fact that Shaun of the Dead got 7.9 surprised me. Nothing against it, because I've heard great things. But
yeah, we should watch it sometime.
We should.
It's a great movie.
But that's not what we're doing today. Today, we have
it is a great movie.
more movies for you to guess.
This is great, because at least it's going, oh yeah, we should watch that movie on the channel sometime.
Yeah.
Okay, so we got Shaun of the Dead, Silence of the Lambs, something else.
You have Silence of the Lambs at number 1, Sixth Sense at number 5, Exorcist number 7, Shaun of the Dead 10.
All right, let's move to 9.
Number 9. I know so little about it that I don't know how I'm even going to give you hints on it. It is a classic movie that I've heard the name of. It is about an infant.
Oh, Omen.
No. It's a different demonic infant.
Oh, Rosemary's Baby.
Yes. Well, I'm just going to give you that one because I don't know how else you would have ever thought to guess. Yeah, let's just see it. Demonic infant movie, Chris. Oh, okay. Rosemary's Baby. Yeah. It's a classic 8.0. All
I do
right.
need to watch Rosemary's Baby.
Number 8, which you could argue is tied for 7 because they both have an 8.1.
Oh,
This
okay.
is the other movie on this list that people would say is not horror. Silence of the Lambs and this one. This is...
Gothica.
No, not Gothica. Honestly, I need to check something. It should have been on the highest grossing movies of all time list.
Gothica?
No, this movie, not Gothica.
Oh. I was like, really?
The movie that's at number 8 maybe should have been on the highest grossing movies list.
Okay.
That's how big of a movie this is.
Think of a movie. Highly rated.
Yes. It actually did not do that well at the box office, so it did great, but in comparison to some of these other movies, it did not do good enough that it would have been on the list.
Okay. Highly rated.
Highly rated. Some people say it's not a horror movie.
Received in the box office.
No, it was. It was considered a box office success. Just not in comparison. It's not the greatest movie of all time.
On the level.
It is considered a blockbuster. It was considered very well done. Just not highest grossing of all time. You know?
28 days later.
No.
Do we have any more zombie movies on this list?
No.
Okay.
I'm wrong. It would have actually sat. Give me a second. It should have sat in number 5.
For highest grossing?
Yes. That is how well this movie did. What? Sorry,
Wow.
Sorry, Hannibal.
It
you should
follows?
not. No. This is a movie. It follows as a horror movie. Sure, yes, I've heard great things, but it's a horror movie. This is a movie that some people would say isn't, but there is a direct rip-off movie that just replaces the type of killer. We'll say it like that, but which is, don't think too much into that. And that, it's a creature feature. Okay, I'll give you that. There is a movie with a different creature that is considered a horror movie by everyone. Yet this movie, which is the same movie but better, is not.
So it's not a creature.
It is a creature.
So
this is a creature feature. This is a creature feature.
Oh.
Just if you swapped out the creature, people consider it a horror movie, but for whatever reason they didn't consider this one. When you know, just think of famous creature features, Chris.
American Werewolf in London.
I wouldn't call that that's a werewolf. I mean, that's a very
specific kind of creature. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's fair. The Blob.
Sure, that's out there. That's one of them. This is a little more grounded in reality. This creature.
Cujo.
You're in the right world of it's now an animal creature feature. Yes.
Oh.
Famous killer animal movie.
Killer animal.
The most famous killer animal movie of all time.
Cujo.
No.
Locking in Cujo again. Cujo
Still not Cujo.
Godzilla?
No. But I would consider him a horror. I would consider it also falls into the horror world, but it's not him. Cujo sits at a 6.1 on IMDb, by the way, so not even close.
Jeez.
Um,
Famous killer animal.
Killing. What is the most deadly animal in the world, Chris?
A gun.
Well, it's actually, I think it's actually a box jellyfish. But what's one people would consider the most dangerous killing animal in the world?
A lion.
think in a different place, but not a cat at all. It's in the ocean like the box jellyfish.
Oh, Jaws.
Yes! But Piranha is a horror movie, but Jaws is only a thriller. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I forgot about the other hint that it should have been in the blockbuster.
Yeah, it should have been in the blockbuster. It was actually number 5.
Yeah, it makes. I did guess Jaws for the highest grossing.
Yeah, Jaws. Some people would argue it's not a horror movie, but I think they're wrong. It is very much a creature. It is the same as The Blob. It's the same as. It's literally the same movie as Piranha, but Piranha is
Yeah, Piranha is literally a ripoff of Jaws.
Yeah, but no one would argue that Piranha isn't a horror movie, but they would argue that Jaws isn't, which is weird. All right, let's move on to number 6.
That's the first time I ever got jump scared was watching Jaws.
Oh, number 6.
When the dead body floats out from the boat.
Ooh, fair.
Scared the crap out of me.
Number 6.
Right. Number 6
is a movie that you guessed on the other list, but it was not on the other list. That's my first hint to try and get you just to think. I don't want to just start giving you hints immediately. I want you to at least try a little bit.
Yeah. Man, it's unfortunate. My short-term memory is literally the worst.
That's fair. So maybe ignore that hint. And just think of what are some great horror movies, Chris? Because there's a couple here that I feel like you could get if you just guessed some of the greatest horror movies of all time by most people's opinion.
Omen.
No, not on there, but I could understand why you would think it could be.
I did already guess that earlier in this list for Rosemary's Baby, so I don't know why I did that. Oops. What about Omen a third time?
Yes,
Did
Omen
it make
3,
it on the list
Final
this time?
Conflict. No, I'm just kidding. The Omen is a 7.5. It is very highly rated, but not quite in the realm.
Not quite on this list. Okay. I think I guessed Paranormal Activity. I don't think that should be on this list.
It is not. I can just tell you.
Good. Very glad to hear that.
Nothing on this movie, on this list, came out
Insidious.
Since everything on this list is 80s or before left.
Wait, what?
Everything
Everything
left
on the list is 80s or before?
Yes. Classic horror movies. Great horror movies people love.
Gotcha.
Yeah. The only movie that wasn't from the Silence of the Lambs and The Sixth Sense were from the 90s. Shaun of the Dead was from the 2000s. Everything else is at least 80s or before.
80s or before? Ooh.
Yeah.
Is Nosferatu on this list?
It was at one point, but that was before I moved a couple things down. It has a 7.9. It could have been tied for the last of the list.
Yeah.
But it is not current. You get bonus points for Nosferatu because it technically is tied for 10.
Oh. Okay.
But it is not currently on the list after I added Jaws.
And they're not movies that we've covered.
No.
Okay. Older movies we haven't covered.
A couple have been mentioned today, a couple have not.
I guess that one.
One of them is a John Carpenter film.
Oh, The Thing.
Yes. 8.2, number 6.
That makes a lot of sense.
Which leaves 4, 3, and 2 left on the list.
4, 3, and 2. It's not much.
There are some of the biggest
also...
movie names in horror history, I would argue.
Poltergeist.
No. You already guessed Poltergeist, and it's still not on the list.
Still not on the list. That's unfortunate.
Yeah,
I was hoping they'd inaugurate it.
Poltergeist sits at...
Probably like a 7.2.
I'm going to guess somewhere in that range, yeah. Poltergeist is a 7.3.
Nice.
So it would be if this was the top 10 movies we covered and we had covered that, it would have made the list. But we havenent covered it.
But we haven't covered it, and that list doesn't exist.
Yeah, we're not doing that list, at least not today.
Jeez.
I will also let you know there are no Universal monster movies, just so you can get those kind of... there's no Dracula, none of that. When I say iconic names in horror, you might have thought of those. It's not any of those.
Yeah.
But These are some of the biggest horror movie names of all time that we haven't covered. There's a Stephen King book
already
on
done
this
The
list.
Exorcist. Carrie.
No.
It's the Christine.
No. It's also not Maximum Overdrive. I'm sorry.
Pet Sematary.
No.
The original one.
That's fair. Fair guess. You're almost there. There's like one more huge Stephen King book. It had a sequel book that also had a movie starring Ewan McGregor.
Oh, yeah. The Shining.
Yes. The Shining is number 4.
Oh, really? I thought that would be higher.
I would have also thought it would have been a little higher. It's sitting at an 8.4. 2 and 3 are technically, you could argue, tied for second, is an 8.5. Like, these are all upper 8s, except for Shaun of the Dead. So, like, everything in this list is from 8 to 8.6. So these are all really interchangeable if you're talking about quality, I guess. Yeah, you have 2 movies left. One of them has been mentioned. One has not been mentioned at all today. And has also never been covered. But has been mentioned due to it has some similar, not thematic elements, but visual. It has some similar visual elements and is such an important movie in horror that it has been mentioned. I would argue it's probably one of the most important movies in horror history. Number 2 is, I would argue, is the most, or is it number 3? Number 3, I would argue, is, well, tied for second, I would argue is one of the most important movies in horror history.
Is Night of the Living Dead one of them?
No, but it probably should be. But it's not on the list. You just get Shaun of the Dead. That's the only of the Dead you get.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, so
similar time frame. Night of the Living Dead, by the way, is a 7.8. So,
one of the most important horror movies.
I would argue this is one of the most important horror movies in history. We've never covered it. It's also from the 60s.
60s?
Yes.
Is it a John Hitchcock film?
I believe it is, yes.
Yes. Psycho.
Yes, it is Psycho.
Yeah.
8.5, Psycho. One of the most famous horror movies, one of the most important horror movies in the history of horror.
Yeah, I haven't seen it.
Me neither, but I know that it's important. That leaves just number 2, which is a movie that has been mentioned, maybe because a movie that's connected to it made a lot of money.
And it was a prequel that made a lot of money.
I didn't say it was a prequel. Could be a sequel, but it might be a prequel. I didn't give you that big of a hint. A movie that is part of the same franchise as this. What'd you say? Did you say it?
Alien.
Yeah, it's Alien. Yeah. Okay. There you go. Yeah, it's Alien.
Yeah. That's like, what did I say earlier?
Alien is also 8.5.
What did I say 20 minutes ago?
All right, just to rerun down that list for everyone. Silence of the Lambs, number 1, 8.6. Alien, 8.5, as well as Psycho, also tied for second, 8.5. Shining, number 4, 8.4. 5, Sixth Sense, 8.2. 6. I went the wrong direction. The Thing, 8.2. The Exorcist, 8.1. Jaws, 8.1. Rosemary's Baby, 8.0. Shaun of the Dead, 7.9. And those are the top 10 highest rated movies according to IMDb.
There you go.
And also, according to IMDb, it is time for our last list of the day. The top 10 worst horror movies covered on Horror Boys.
Top 10 worst.
And I will tell you, technically, this is a top 15 because number 10 has a 6-way tie.
Oh, so it's like, this is by IMDb ratings,
IMDb ratings, top 10 worst horror movies we've ever covered.
Freddy vs. Jason's got to be on there.
It is one of the ties for... Wait, did you say Freddy vs. Jason? Sorry. Freddy vs. Jason...
Yeah.
did not make the list.
Really?
Yeah, you're the only one who hates it the way you hate it, Chris.
I guess so.
People love that ending.
Well, no, there's probably just a lot of people who hate it and a lot of people who love it.
Yeah, because the ending is amazing, and I could understand not hating it because of the ending.
Jason X.
Jason X is number 7? No, it's 8. Number 8 with a 4.4.
Yeah, I hate to hear it. Sorry,
you
Jason
do hate
X.
to hear it.
You don't deserve it.
There are a few on here that I think deserve much better than they got.
I'd be willing to bet that Rubber probably is on that list.
Surprisingly, Rubber sits like a 6.5, which it's a good movie, but I think it's a little too high, honestly. I like Rubber.
That's probably fair.
But yeah, no,
I would like Rubber to give it a 6.5, maybe even like a 7.
Yeah, I like Rubber.
But I'm surprised more people don't hate it.
Yes, that is fair. But Rubber did not make the list. Huh. So far, you have number 7, Jason X.
Thanksgiving.
Or number 8. Yeah, that is number 7 with a 4.2.
That does not deserve a 4.2, I'll say it.
No. I mean, I think that movie has enough charm that it's enjoyable to watch once, but it is still a garbage piece of garbage.
Yeah, it's awful.
It's a charming piece of garbage, in my opinion, but it's still garbage, and therefore deserves to be...
It's charming, and that's it.
Yeah. All right. You have numbers 8 and 7. You still have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 9, and a 6.
See, I'm really good at doing,
10.
This movie is objectively bad. But when I'm like, I gotta think about good movies.
Yeah, so... You still got a lot left on this list.
Yeah, but I got 2 of them way faster than I did any of the other ones.
That is true.
Jeez. Okay, what other terrible movies have we watched? I'd be willing to bet money that people did not enjoy the Friday the 13th. Or no, the Nightmare on Elm Street remake very much.
I believe it's like a 5-something. It's not on the list.
Ooh.
I would have guessed it also made the list, but it did not.
Terrible movies we've watched. You know what? I know you love it, and I don't very much. No, I wouldn't put Seed of Chucky on there, honestly.
You want to guess it?
No,
okay.
I don't.
That's good, because
I don't think it makes the list.
It didn't make the list.
Yeah, I didn't think it would. I think the people who are watching that movie would enjoy that movie.
That's fair. Yeah, I think a lot of people who watch that movie, either hate it or you don't, but not enough people have seen it, I think, in comparison to some of these other ones. Maybe. I don't know. I'm just speculating.
Spitballing.
Yeah.
Let's see. So I guess Jason X, which is the Friday, or no, which is the Nightmare on Elm Street movie that is pretty renownedly hated.
I don't know. Maybe it's a movie I call the worst movie of all time. I think is what you're thinking, trying to remember the name of.
I am. It's not. Is it Dream Masters?
No, it's not Dream Masters. Dream Masters is 4, which is okay.
Oh, Freddy's Revenge.
Close, but Freddy's Revenge is actually the subtitle of number 2, which is my favorite.
Oh, that's right. That's number 2. Yeah, I would never have guessed number 2. It's Freddy's Nightmare or Freddy's Back?
What's the opposite of being back?
God. Oh, Freddy's Dead.
Yes, Freddy's Dead. The Final Nightmare is your first of the tied for 10th, surprisingly, at a 4.7. There are 6 more movies tied for 10th. Or 5 more movies, sorry. There are 6 movies total tied for 10th.
Can I just out of curiosity, what is number 1 star rating?
3.3. It's 3.3 to 4.7 is the range of bad that made the top 15, I guess, technically.
3.3. Okay. Wow. Where Thanksgiving sit, by the way?
4.2. Only the top 4 sit under a 4.
Man.
And some of them, one of them, actually 2 of them, I think are drastically way too low of scores. One of them is one that I'm pretty sure you will definitely also think is a different one than I thought. I think it's still too low, but you actually liked this movie. But not when we watched it. You liked it later. You told me that you rewatched it and liked it. That's number 1. It's a movie that it felt like we all disliked when we covered it on the podcast. But then when you mentioned later that you actually rewatched it and thought it wasn't bad, you actually might have liked it for how weird it is.
I rewatched it.
I think you rewatched it. I could be wrong on the rewatching. I just definitely know you reconsidered it at the very least and realized you didn't dislike it.
But it was really weird.
Yes.
Bats.
Bats is on the list, but is not.
Bats on the list.
Bats, sadly, because I think Bats was fine, is number 5 at a 4.
Fair, I guess.
I guess. I feel like that's a little low.
It definitely isn't worse than Thanksgiving.
But apparently it is. It's also not
no
worse
questions about that.
It's also not 0.7 worse than Freddy's Dead. Bull crap. I'd rewatch Bats 1,000 times before I'd consider rewatching Freddy's Dead.
Number 1 was a 3.3. And we actually thought it was...
I remember saying that you actually thought you kind of liked it.
I kind of liked it, but none of us liked it initially.
I think so. I can't remember if you ended up actually liking it on the podcast in like your end of review, even though during it you were with us crapping on it. Because you've done that a couple times where you will point out all the flaws and go, actually I liked it. It's like, wait, what? And you'll shock me.
Yeah.
It might have been one of those.
You know, we all have our seated Chuckies.
I love Seed of Chucky. I defend all of it.
There's some movies out there that
I would describe this as your
not
Seed of
good.
Chucky. I would describe this as your Seed of Chucky, though.
Oh, interesting.
A movie that most people disliked, but you liked. It is part of a famous franchise. I'll give you that as a hint.
Part of a famous franchise.
Yes.
Okay. Oh. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
New Generation Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Yes. 3.3. Number 1. Worst movie.
Wow.
According to IMDb. I think that's
That's
little
crazy.
low, but I do think it is not as good as you. You liked it, and I don't understand how you liked it. It has one character that is kind of fun to watch, and that's it.
Yeah, luckily he's in most of the movie.
That's true. All right, number 1 down. Still a lot to go because
I'd give it like a 4.5 probably.
I'd probably give it like a 4, but I also would give some of these other movies on this list lower or higher. So
Yeah.
I believe my personal rating for Freddy's Dead is a 1. So I hate that movie.
I do think you. Yeah, I think that's correct.
I hate that movie with a passion.
I'm trying to think of what movies, aside from Freddy vs. Jason, that I hated with passion, and I don't think there are any.
There are some on
that I
this
hated
list. There's at least
as
one
much.
movie on this list, like Jason X, where you and me liked it, but apparently people hate it.
Oh,
Number 3.
Bride Reanimator.
No. Thankfully, none of the Reanimators made this list. All of them,
Nice.
I think the lowest Reanimator is like a 5 something.
That tracks.
I think
No.
Beyond Reanimator is a 5.8, and that's considered the worst. Reanimator sits at like a 7.2,
Nice.
which is great. I love Reanimator. I think that movie deserves that.
Another movie that we enjoyed.
I will let you know,
no
it
one
was a
else
3-person podcast, and all 3 of us really enjoyed this movie. I don't think any of us went into it expecting to enjoy it.
That makes sense for us.
But we came out all really enjoying this movie. Not that it's like a great movie, but we all enjoyed it. I think that's fair to add that justification. That I wouldn't call this a great movie, but it is a fun movie that we all really enjoyed. And it is a sequel.
It is a direct sequel.
I didn't say that, but that is true.
Okay.
I didn't say that, but yes.
It's a sequel. We all expected to hate it.
Uh-huh. Maybe because we didn't really like the first one, which might also be on this list.
Oh, yeah, that would make sense if both of them are. Oh, jeez. Trying to think of what movies we covered.
Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving. Oh, Jack Frost. Dude.
Jack Frost 2, Revenge of the Mutant Killer Snowman is number 3 with a 3.6. Would you like to guess the other one?
I mean, I understand. I just disagree.
Yeah, that's fair. Would you like to guess the other one real quick? Just get out of the way.
Yes. Jack Frost.
Yes, tied for 10 with a 4.7.
Tragic.
It is tragic that movie is considered higher rated than the second one. The second one is 10 times a better movie. It is so much more fun to watch.
Yeah.
All right. We got a couple more movies on this list. There is one franchise that still has 3 movies on the list.
3 of them?
Yep. There's a franchise with 3 movies left on the list. There's a franchise with 2 left on the list. And another franchise with 2 left on the list.
I bet Texas Chainsaw's got quite a few movies on this list, if I can be honest.
Do you want to guess any specific ones?
Give me the... God, they have such stupid... I gotta bring up the list of movies.
Well, that's cheating.
Or I'm not gonna be able to... I have to bring up the list of movies often.
Give me a description, and I might be able to help you.
I can't remember any of the movies. The stupid one where he's a kid and escapes from the asylum.
I liked Leatherface, thank you very much, but no, it's not on the list. I thought Leatherface was fine. It was all the other...
Leatherface Origins?
It's just called Leatherface. I'll let you know, just because it's a tied for 10th, so who really cares? Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2022 is the only other one on the list.
That makes sense.
That is the only other Texas Chainsaw Massacre, so you can move on from Texas Chainsaw Massacre in your head.
Well, tracks.
That's at a 4.7, tied for 10. We have... And that was not one of the franchises I was talking about, obviously. Actually, all that are left are part of 3 franchises. 2 with 2 movies left on the list. 1 with 3 movies left on the list.
3 movies from one franchise.
Yep.
That we have covered.
Uh-huh. This whole list is movies we've covered, Chris.
Yeah.
It's kind of the theme of this list. Because if I just did worst movies of all time, there'll be a bunch of 1-star movies you'd never heard of. So
that is true. Oof. So all the movies left are in franchises.
There are 3 franchises left with representation. 2 with 2 movies, 1 with 3. Just pick a franchise and try.
Friday the 13th.
All right,
remake.
That is not on the list, thankfully, but maybe that franchise is.
Yeah, that would make sense. Jason Takes Manhattan.
Number 9 with a 4.5.
They're hardly in Manhattan. Who could blame anyone for being in that
Takes a
movie?
boat to Manhattan. That's actually Toronto.
That's most of the movie. Jason Takes a boat to Toronto just doesn't have the same ring.
Nah, not as good of a ring.
Jason takes a boat to Manhattan and then kills like 1-2 people when he's there.
There may be... Actually, no, guaranteed. There is at least one more Friday the 13th movie on this list. With what I've told you before. There may be 2.
What other terrible Friday the 13th movies?
I'm not mad with the other 2 movies. Spoiler from Friday the 13th. They're on this list. I think
You're mad that they're there?
I'm not mad. I think they deserve to be here.
Okay. Man, that feels like another lifetime ago.
It was.
I'm trying to remember what the fourth Jason or Friday the
We
13th
like the
movie
fourth
even
one.
is.
The fourth one's great. It's the final chapter.
But it's not actually, sadly.
It's not, but it is a
Uh,
fun movie. It's the one starring Corey Feldman.
what's the one where she has Carrie Powers?
No, New Blood is not on this list.
People that's not on the list, unfortunately. Uh,
There's only a couple left that you haven't guessed.
yeah.
I think one of these two are the ones we considered, as a podcast, the worst two in the franchise.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. I just can't remember what they are. Uh, apparently trying to block out whatever memory I had of them.
Well, don't worry, we're gonna recover them at some point.
It's terrible news. Why would you tell me that? Although we've gone over that. Well,
Yeah, because they deserve.
it's just really depressing to think about.
They do deserve better coverage than we gave them because the podcast evolved and we weren't
Yeah,
giving as deep
it
of an
changed.
analysis.
And we've changed.
We
Sort
have.
of, really.
I mean, I when we watched those movies, some of those were my first like real horror movies watching. Now I have like actual opinions on horror.
Yeah, that's fair.
Chris, Roy,
Yes.
A New Beginning.
Roy.
Is tied for 10.
A New Beginning?
Yeah, that's the
Yeah,
one with Roy.
couldn't tell you that was the name of the movie. The Roy movie does, that tracks.
And I'll just, because you're not going to ever get it. Jason Goes to Hell.
No, yeah! Yeah, that movie does suck.
Yes. It has some cool kills, and that's it.
Yeah.
All it's got going for it.
Yeah, we would have been here all night.
I know. That's why I eventually just said, screw it, I'll let you have it.
Thank you.
I do like this. I do like this concept. We will probably definitely do at least one more episode of Austin gives Chris top 10 list to try to figure out.
All
We
right.
got two more
how many I have
franchises. 4 more movies, split between 2 franchises.
I'm sure more Nightmare on Elm Street movies are on there.
No, surprisingly.
Really? What?
Yeah. The only one that made the list was Freddy's Dead.
I don't think any of the Chucky movies make the list.
That is also true.
Franchises.
One of them is barely a franchise because it's a trilogy.
Hmm. Oh, Final Destination's definitely in that list.
No. And there's 5
No?
of those anyway.
Well, I was just saying.
Oh, I guess there was
probably the
one of
other
them is a trilogy.
franchise.
That could have been the other one. It's not. No. Surprisingly, none of those are on the list. To be fair, there's only really one bad movie. So, and there's at least 2
Yeah,
represented for each one left. One of them is a trilogy. One is not.
That we've watched.
Mm-hmm. I think we've only covered 2 trilogies. And you know it's
Yeah.
not one of them. Because we already said all of the Reanimators were good.
It's true.
What other trilogy did we cover?
That's a great question, Austin. What a
I
wonderful
know.
question.
I could have probably told you without looking over the list, but I also have the list in front of me.
Trilogies that we've watched.
Trilogy of post-Scream movies.
Post-Scream movies.
Teen horror post-Scream trilogy.
Teen horror post-Scream.
Has a specific killer and a specific style of costume. It has to do with the setting of the first movie. That ocean town they're near.
I know what you did last summer, but I'll always know what you did last summer.
I'll always know what you did last summer is number 2 with a 3.4. Why is he actually mystical now? No one knows. And let's be real. So if I told you it's part of the trilogy, what's the other one that somehow made this list?
I still know what you did
Yeah,
last time.
not the original. The original is not on the list. That's tied for
Yep.
10. I think that's a little low, honestly. I think that movie is fine. It's not good, but it's not bad either.
Yeah.
I'll always know What You Did Last Summer deserves its spot. That's one of the worst movies we ever
Absolutely.
covered. All right, we have 2 movies left, part of a big franchise. You've covered pretty much all but one of the big franchises that we've covered.
What franchise am I blacking out on?
The most recent franchise we've covered.
What did we cover last?
The last we covered
Oh,
was
Halloween.
Beth. Yes. So which of the Halloween
Uh,
movies made the list?
Sam Hain. The one that didn't have Michael Myers in it at
No,
all.
that movie actually is loved by a lot of people for being the type.
Really?
Yeah, no, that movie has it has a fan base.
Weird. Halloween 5.
No, sadly, that movie did not make the list. I hate that movie, and with a passion.
Yeah. I think you are probably one of the few people that hates that movie as much as you do.
They ruined
Uh,
4.
Man, what was it? A terrible Halloween movie? Oh. It's probably one of the recent ones. Halloween Kills.
No, we didn't cover any of those, Chris,
Oh, that's right.
because I had a mental breakdown. Remember?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
remember. Rob Zombie's Halloween?
We didn't actually cover
Did
that.
we officially cover that?
No, we didn't.
Okay.
There's like a couple left. You're almost there.
Yeah.
That's right.
H2O.
Halloween 6, Curse of Michael Myers.
Ah, yes.
The one with Paul Rudd.
Oh.
Not H2O, though, by the way.
Yeah.
One left. It's number 4. People hate it. I don't.
People hate it.
I think you didn't like it, but I don't. I like it. I think it's fun.
You
Stars
think it's
Busta Rhymes.
Ah, yes. I don't remember the name of the movie.
Halloween Resurrection with a 3.9.
Yeah. It's a pretty bad movie.
It's a fun movie. It's definitely, I think it's better than H2O. H2O is boring by the numbers, screen copy. That movie had balls. It had Busta Rhymes doing kung fu kicks to Michael Myers.
I think just objectively from a filmmaking point of view, it's pretty bad.
It's fine.
It's fun, but it's pretty bad.
It's a fine movie. It's a good movie. Everyone's wrong. I'm right. Everyone else is wrong. Thank you, Chris, for playing along with this game. The next game episode we do will probably be another game episode. We're still gonna be releasing every other week for a little while. I am peek behind the curtain. I am slowly starting to try to work on notes in the background as well. So at some point, I do plan on the podcast returning to what it was. But for now, enjoy these stupid little games. Next episode will probably not be another top 10 list game. I'll give Chris at least a 1 week break on that format. But I'll probably still give him a different format that hurts his brain. Because it's fun to watch him suffer, isn't it, guys? I agree.
I hope.
I've been Austin, joined by Chris as always. We'll be back in 2 weeks, probably. I mean, who knows? You know, we said that last episode. And this has been like a month. But with this format of game episodes, we should be able to get one out in 2 weeks. Bye, everyone.
Bye.